Good afternoon. Now that Jenny Graham has joined us, we can get this meeting started. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, club number 2500, District 6110. I think this is the 5,277th meeting of our club. Did you know? Thank you, Jerry. Jerry appreciates what I have to say. Did you know that today is National Hugging Day? I did not. Guess how I found out? Larry Boyer, past district governor, ran up to me and started trying to vigorously hug me. I was like, Larry, what's up? And he said, it's National Hugging Day, Carl. I was like, okay, don't. Yeah. But that is kind of a reminder about what Rotary is all about: connection, friendship, and caring for one another. And we'll keep things professional on that, but it's a great time to celebrate goodwill and fellowship that brings us together. Because, goodwill and fellowship is best represented by recently retired Mike Homan, past President Mike Homan, who joined us today. Congratulations on that retirement, Mike. Before we begin today, Ashley Cutshaw will introduce our guests, followed by my very favorite immediate past president, Daniel Gomez, doing new member introductions. But first, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to introduce the guests and their host Rotarians, so if you would please stand and stay standing until we call everyone's name, and then we'll save applause for the end. All right, we have Yelena Wilson. The host Rotarian is Bethany Wilson. Gary Bartlett, host Rotarian, Andrea Nielsen Bartlett. Sandy House, host Rotarian Jerry Dillon. And Bob Warwick, host Rotarian Jerry Dillon. And then we have lots of guests of our speaker. Harold Briggs, Jason Maloney, Chad Goodman and Stacy, Rachel Burdett, Jody Wolfson, Elizabeth, and Catherine are all guests of our speaker today. So please join me in a round of applause to welcome our guests. And then we have one visiting Rotarian, Larry Boyer. Hi, Larry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, President Carl, for a very nice introduction to me. But it's my pleasure today to introduce two new Rotarians. The first is Aaron Wendt. Aaron is originally from Wisconsin, and he moved to Tulsa in 2000 to attend college at ORU. After studying public relations and advertising, he found a career at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Hilti North America, and valet parking all over town. He has held several sales and marketing jobs, both at Enterprise and Hilti, and after 8 years with those companies, he started his own property management construction company. Hilti was his first client, and after 13 years on his own, he now manages rental properties and has several long-term commercial clients. Aaron has been involved in volunteer projects at his church and at Tulsa Habitat for Humanity. In his free time, he enjoys biking, hunting, fishing, outdoors, and traveling with his wife, Abigail. They are passionate about getting to know different world cultures through travel, cuisine, and conversation. They've traveled to every U.S. state and have been to many countries and 6 out of the 7 continents. They make friends wherever they go and enjoy connections and experiences, and I think the Rotary Club will be perfect for him. Fun fact for Aaron, he has fished on every continent except for Antarctica, but he plans to do that at some point in the future. Welcome to the club, Aaron. Next is Jessica Schuffenhauer. She is a native Tulsan. She moved here in 1999 at the age of 9 and has been a local entrepreneur since 2009. She's a proud mom to a 9-year-old named Avery and is the bonus mom to 2 amazing boys aged 16 and 18 named Liam and Cade. Professionally, she owns Set the Stage, a luxury furniture staging, sales, and design company right here in Tulsa. They specialize in vacant home staging, furniture sales, and turnkey design solutions for realtors, short-term rental investors, commercial spaces, film sets, and frankly, anybody who's interested in furniture and decor. She's excited to be part of Rotary, to get more involved in the community, and to connect with other professionals who are just as passionate about Tulsa as she is. She's happy to be here, and I know she's going to find a spot in our club very soon. Little known fact, she's a huge Oklahoma City Thunder fan. At a bar in Oklahoma City one night, she ran into a bunch of players and has a picture with Kendrick Perkins. Jessica, welcome to our club. And thank you, of course, to our membership committee for all the great work that they continue to do.
Thank you, Daniel and Ashley. Aaron, that cultures, cuisine, and conversation bit for travel, I love that, and that's what Rotary is all about. I want to take a minute. How many of you noticed there was a little folded piece of paper standing up on your table? That's from our membership engagement team. They're actively creating conversation starters for us to have on our tables to spark meaningful connections with our existing members, new members, and guests. Let's say you're somebody real shy and retiring and afraid to talk to people like Sheree Gardner. So you can look at this and you've got something if you could invite any speaker, living or historical, besides Dimitri Volson to our meeting, who would it be? What is one small habit that has made your life better? If our Rotary Club had a motto just for this year, what should it be? I think I got the answer to that one. We'll be glad when Carl's done. So, I want to mention something else today that's pretty special as far as I'm concerned. Eric Ortega is sitting back there. Eric Ortega spearheaded the reignition of the 4-way speech contest for our club. Many of you will remember that we held that contest every year for years and recognized a local high school student who competed for an award. Sometimes that award was monetary. It always included a little plaque, and they got to present the winning presentation before this club. Next week, next Wednesday at 11 o'clock, Eric is hosting, is it 2 students from Union, Eric? Two students from Eric. They're going to be in room 232 right here, and those 2 students are going to present their speeches. They have a total of 7 minutes, I believe, to make their presentation, so we'll go quickly. It would mean a lot to me if a few of you could please attend that 11 o'clock meeting to hear those students make their presentation. Eric will help select a winner. Then at that very meeting, during our lunch, the winning student will stand here at this podium and give their winning presentation. There's a small cash prize as well as a plaque that the winner will receive. So I think that 4-way test competition is one of the best possible ways to introduce the principles of Rotary to young people in our community. So please consider supporting us at 11 o'clock next week in room 232 to hear those 2 competitors. And thank you so much, Eric, for doing that this year. You know, Eric just rejoined our club last year, and I was trying to think of things to give people to do, and I thought, I know, I'll call Eric and see if he'll do 4-way speech contest, and he picked up the ball and ran with it. I'm so thankful. Now I got a little Rotary DNA for you today. We're going to go back to November of 1953 when Tulsa, the Rotary Club of Tulsa and the city of Tulsa, hosted what was hailed as the finest Rotary District Conference ever held. The president for that conference in November of 1953 was a guy named Sam Avey. Now, he owned the Coliseum, but the Coliseum burned down, we believe, in 1952. So when Tina was originally doing the research on this, she thought the event may have been held at the Coliseum. We don't think that's true, but it was a big deal. Over 1,550 Rotarians and guests came together from our district for 2 full days of fellowship, learning, and celebration. Get this. General James A. Van Fleet gave an address to the conference on the situation in Korea at the time. That presentation was made at Tulsa Convention Hall, later known as the Brady Theater, currently known as the Tulsa Theater. There were art tours at the Philbrook Museum, which at that time had only been owned by Tulsa for about a decade, so it was still a fairly fresh amenity in our city. And there were packed plenary sessions and a governor's banquet hosting, you see in the picture there, that's a lot of folks. They hosted almost 1,000 people at that governor's banquet. That conference reminds us that Rotary has always been about connection, meaningful experiences, and building goodwill. The venues may change, the programs may evolve, but the Rotary DNA, connection, leadership, and fellowship, as well as the learning, remain the same. So now we're going to tie Rotary DNA to learning. Tina did this and did a fabulous job. Rotary works really hard to help our members learn, and one of the great strengths of Rotary is that we don't stop learning, and Rotary International has made it easier and more fun through the Rotary Learning Center. On your table, there's a piece of paper that talks about it just a little bit, but the Learning Center is Rotary's online hub for education and leadership development. It offers free, self-paced courses for everyone, from brand new members to seasoned leaders. Topics include Rotary basics, club leadership, public image, membership, grants, service projects, Rotary Youth Exchange. Just about anything related to Rotary, you can find a course in the Learning Center. And I didn't know about the Learning Center until I've been a member since 2004, and I'm sure someone stood up here and talked about it on more than one occasion, but it takes me a while to get stuff. But when I attended the District Leadership Academy, the teacher for that Larry, it was Roy, and I can't remember Roy's last name off the top of my head, that ran that Leadership Academy. He was a submarine guy out of Edmond. Anyway, submarine guy, nuclear submarine guy, you don't argue with Roy. And Roy said, you will take and complete these Rotary Learning Center courses. So I did a bunch of them. And the Learning Center uses something called gamification, which means if you complete a course, you get points, badges, certificates, and bragging rights. Now, what do bragging rights mean? Well, there's an actual scoreboard. And right now, on the District 6110 Leadership Scoreboard, I'm in 9th place. I've got 200 and, wait till you hear the winner of this, though. I got 206 points. That shows that I'm learning a little bit, but I'm sleeping a lot. And then our district governor, John Raines, leading by example, is in 5th place. He's got 276 points. But there's one more individual involved in our club who has 1,511 points, 1,511 points. And we're not sure if that person is still taking courses or if they just spend all their time in the Learning Center. And that person is Tina Miller. Tina's invested a lot of effort in learning Rotary. So you can get points too, and here's how you can do it. If you haven't already, create a My Rotary account. The information's right there on your table today, and it's titled how to create my Rotary account. It's simple and only takes a couple minutes. Once your account's set up, you go to the Learning Center, and the very first course you get access to is Getting Started with the Learning Center. Takes 15 minutes, leads you through the program, you get your first points. Now, we have an incentive for you. If you will go online and register for it and complete that first course all the way, we can see it when you do that, and then if you'll send an email to Tina and let her know, hey, I completed the course, you'll be entered into a drawing for a special prize. So you got until the end of February to do that, and I'm just curious, how many of you have My Rotary accounts already? Okay, that's a fair number. Mike Homan's even got an account, and he's a retired guy, so that's good. I really do encourage you to do it. If you're on a committee, there's a high probability, like better than 99%, there'll be a course on things you can do with that committee or ideas to make that committee better. There's programs ideas, there's membership recruiting ideas, there's event ideas, there's zone ideas, district ideas. It's a lot of material. Now, along those lines, we're committed, our club is committed to investing in our current and future leaders. We want to develop that. This is a new initiative for our club. We've got a board-approved program that sponsors attendance at Rotary leadership events. What's that mean, sponsors attendance? That means we'll pay for your registration fee if you'll please go to some of these events. This opportunity is for Rotarians who want to learn more about Rotary, grow in their journey, and further develop their leadership skills. Now, here's where it gets great. On May the 2nd, 2026, at the Renaissance Hotel in Tulsa, there's another Rotary District Conference coming up. It's right here in town. And we encourage you to apply to attend that event right here locally. You can sleep in your own bedroom and be at that conference. Tina is going to email everybody in the club a bit of information on that with an application form you can fill out to get your registration reimbursed. So I hope you'll do that. So today, I get to introduce a Rotarian of the day, and I'm having a little bit of trouble, Chaz, because the person I'm going to introduce is about 1/3 my age, and she's accomplished 3 times as much. I think they call that an inverse relationship, Mac. Bethany Wilson is a market risk analyst at Bank of Oklahoma, where she works in counterparty credit risk and market risk across the bank's energy, foreign exchange, and interest rate derivative trading desks. I failed out of algebra. Originally from New York, Bethany grew up here in the Tulsa area, where she served in the Civil Air Patrol, the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary, and earned the rank of Cadet Colonel. She graduated from the University of Tulsa with a degree in mechanical engineering and a minor in Russian, because that was easy, wasn't it? While at TU, she led her senior design project team to NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab, because doesn't everybody do that? She served as president of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers and interned at Textron Aviation in structural engineering and special missions project management. Then she went and earned her MBA from TU in 2024 while serving on the Collins College of Business Dean's Graduate Student Advisory Board. Bethany will be transitioning into a fixed income portfolio research analyst role with Kavanaugh Hill in February. Fun fact, do you really have time for fun, Bethany? Fun fact, she recently bought her first house in Broken Arrow. Please join me in welcoming a remarkable Rotarian of the day, Bethany Wilson.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all excited about the speaker today. I am absolutely honored to introduce Dmitry Volsan. In case you were wondering where his name came from, he was born in St. Petersburg, and he grew up around Russia, Israel, and eventually immigrated to the United States. So as the daughter of a Russian immigrant, I've really witnessed firsthand the cultural shock and just the overwhelming pressure of rebuilding your life in a whole new country with a completely new language in a very, very unfamiliar environment. And can I say, Dmitry has done just that. So in light of the fact I was given 3 minutes to introduce him, I'm going to go a little bit fast, and I had to condense some of this. But Dmitry Volsan is the president and CEO of Leap Advisory, which is an outsourced CFO and controller services firm, helping more than 35 regional clients. He has almost 20 years of experience in accounting and finance, is a licensed certified public accountant in Oklahoma, and primarily helps clients in system transitions and implementations, audit readiness, growth initiatives, and expense management optimization. I did want to highlight one of his company reviews from Arkansas Homes and Rentals. They said we were consolidating a property management system and over 15 separate LLC files from Sage 50 and QuickBooks into one ERP system. And Dmitry and Leap Advisory did such a good job, we decided to also use them for multiple special projects and continue to consult them monthly. Before Dmitry started Leap Advisory in 2022, he spent a decade at Hook & Taylor as an assurance senior manager and then served as a director of accounting and finance at Stan Johnson Company, where he was part of the executive team that helped the company through its sale. Interesting. He's an AICPA member, an OSCPA trailblazer, participated in the Leadership Tulsa Class 50, was recognized as one of Oklahoma's top 40 under 40, and is active in several Tulsa nonprofit boards. He earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in accounting from Iowa State University, and he and his wife live in Tulsa with their 2 daughters. It's just an absolutely phenomenal story of really chasing the American dream and coming so far from what was the Soviet Union. So absolutely phenomenal story, and I hope you all are just as excited as I am to learn more. Please help me welcome Dmitry.
Thank you, Bethany, for that introduction. And thank you to the Rotary Club for inviting me to be with you today. It's truly an honor to spend some time with you with such committed community leaders. I want to start out by asking you to think about a moment in your life when you made a decision that didn't come with a safety net. Maybe it was starting your business. Maybe it was leaving a stable job. Or maybe it was moving your family to a new city. A moment when, whether literally or figuratively, you purchased a one-way ticket. Those moments usually come with a mix of emotion: excitement, fear, doubt, hope, along with that quiet question in the back of your mind: what if this doesn't work? For my family, one-way tickets weren't a metaphor. They were very real. In fact, my life has been shaped by a series of them, starting long before I ever had a say in the matter. Today, I want to share that story, not because it's unique, but because it reflects something timeless. Despite what we hear in the headlines or see on social media, I believe the American dream is not dead. It's alive, but it still asks the same thing of us as it always has: courage, grit, hard work, and that willingness to step forward without guarantees. Let me take you back to where that journey began. I was born in Pushkin, Russia in May of 1985. Pushkin is a small historic town just outside of what was then known as Leningrad, today St. Petersburg. The city is named after Alexander Pushkin, one of Russia's most celebrated poets, and it's known for its rich culture, architecture, and history. For a bit of geographic perspective, St. Petersburg sits on roughly the same longitude as Anchorage, Alaska, far north with long winters and limited daylight. My early memories of Russia are modest but vivid. We didn't own a family car. Instead, we relied on public transportation, buses, trams, the metro, to get around. I still remember traveling into the city to visit my aunt and being completely captivated by the metro stations. Each station had its own architecture, artwork, and dedication. Even as a young child, I could sense that history mattered. We lived in a small two-bedroom apartment. My brother and sister, who are 12 and 6 years older than me, shared one bedroom, while my crib was in my parents' room. We lived on the 11th floor of a large concrete building with a playground out front where kids from dozens of families gathered every day. It wasn't luxurious, but it was home. To understand why my parents were willing to take extraordinary risks later in life, it helps to understand the history they carried with them. My father was born into a Jewish family that during World War II was forced to flee its home to escape the Nazis. Survival meant constant moving, uncertainty, and loss. My mother's family carried a very different but equally complex history. Her father served in the Red Army. Her uncle, her father's brother, was an officer in the KGB. And her mother survived the siege of Leningrad, a brutal 872-day blockade during World War II that starved and isolated the city. She survived not because life was kind, but because she endured. Those experiences left a lasting imprint. They instilled in both of my parents a deep determination, not just to survive, but to build something better. They believed life could be more than endurance, and their children deserved opportunities they themselves never had. In early 1990, as the Soviet Union was unraveling, my father came across an advertisement offering a legal pathway to Jewish families to immigrate to Israel. There were strict requirements and no guarantees. Just the possibility of a new beginning. For the first time, my parents made a decision to buy a one-way ticket. At the end of 1990, we packed what little we had and boarded a flight to Israel. I was 5 years old. We arrived in Israel during a period of growing instability in the region, shortly after the Gulf War broke out. I distinctly remember being fitted with a gas mask as a precaution against potential chemical missile attacks from Iraq. There were nights when we slept wearing those masks, something no child forgets. We were placed by the government into Kibbutz Sa'ad, a small communal village located just a few miles from what is now the Gaza border. The kibbutz provided housing, shared meals, education, and a synagogue. Life was communal, structured, and supportive. As a child, I adapted quickly. I learned Hebrew, made friends, and embraced the culture. The climate, however, was a shock, moving from cold, humid Russia to desert heat that felt similar to Phoenix, Arizona. While the kibbutz was a wonderful community, my father was focused on upward mobility. He applied for a role at a software engineering company. Out of more than 600 applicants, fewer than 5% were selected. And his ability to read, write, and speak English made all the difference. That opportunity allowed us to leave the kibbutz and move to Rehovot, south of Tel Aviv. Financially, life was still difficult. Our apartment had no air conditioning, and during the summer we poured buckets of cold water on the floor just to take the edge off the heat. My mother worked multiple jobs to help make ends meet. Eventually, we purchased our first family car, a small hatchback with barely enough power to get us around, but to us, it represented freedom. We could finally explore the country, the Mediterranean Sea, the Dead Sea, and Jerusalem. Those years taught me a lesson I didn't fully appreciate until much later. Resilience and adaptability are the roots of opportunity. One day, my father's boss approached him with a major opportunity. The company has sold software to a US-based client, and it needed someone on the ground to configure the system. The location, Des Moines, Iowa. That was before the internet. My dad pulled out a small pocket globe, and together we searched until we found it. In the summer of 1995, my parents purchased their second one-way ticket. And once again, we left behind language, community, and certainty, and moved us to the United States. I was 10 years old. On that flight, I remember wanting another glass of water. My dad made me memorize exactly how to ask for it in English. I repeated that sentence in my head over and over, terrified that the flight attendant might ask a follow-up question. We arrived during summer heat. People warned my dad to prepare for winter, a concept that felt unimaginable after years in the Middle East. School was terrifying. I entered fifth grade barely speaking English. I couldn't tell whether I was sitting in English class or history, but I knew when I was in math. That was my anchor. Sports became my bridge. Football, basketball, kickball, they transcended languages. ESL classes and a patient teacher helped me gain confidence. Slowly, fear gave way to belonging. America felt different. It felt possible. But that sense of possibility was not without fear. Not long after we settled in Iowa, there was a very real possibility that my father's work visa would not be extended. The project that he's been working on was supposed to be temporary, and suddenly our future in the United States felt uncertain again. There were conversations at our dinner table about contingency plans, and one of those plans was Quebec, Canada. At 10 or 11 years old, I didn't understand immigration laws, but I understood what another move meant. It meant another school, another set of friends, another culture, and potentially another language. By that point in my life, I was already navigating Russian at home, Hebrew from Israel, and English in school. The idea that I might need to learn a fourth language by the age of 12 was overwhelming. I remember lying awake some nights wondering whether life would always mean starting over. Looking back now, I realize that uncertainty was quietly building a skill I would rely on for the rest of my life. The ability to adapt without knowing the outcome. Fortunately, my father's project extended, then extended again. What was supposed to be a short-term assignment turned into a permanent opportunity. Our temporary status became a green card, and for the first time, the word home began to feel stable. I attended Iowa State University, choosing accounting largely because of my love for math. It was the one subject that has always felt like a constant as everything around me changed. Once in college, I stayed focused and became deeply involved on campus through student organizations, leadership groups, and teaching assistant roles during my graduate studies. By the time I was a junior, I already had a job with the public accounting firm McGladrey, now known as RSM, where I was introduced to the world of accounting and audit. It was there that I truly fell in love with the profession, the structure, problem solving, and the responsibility that came with it. At that point, my plan was to attend University of Texas for my master's degree, but once again, an unexpected opportunity changed my path. The Dean of Accounting at Iowa State offered to graduate me early and encouraged me to participate in a semester abroad in London. One professor in particular pushed me to take the leap. That decision changed my life. That summer, Iowa State joined Oklahoma State for the program, and it's where I met my wife of now 17 years. After graduation, I began purchasing my own smaller one-way tickets. Career moves by growth and opportunity. I moved from Des Moines to Kansas City, and a decision that placed some distance between our two families, but allowed both of us to continue building our careers. In 2009, in the aftermath of the financial crisis, my wife and I made another intentional move, this time Tulsa, Oklahoma, knowing this is where we wanted to put down our roots and eventually start our family. I joined Hogan Taylor, where I spent nearly a decade of my career. One of the most valuable lessons I learned there had nothing to do with accounting or audit standards. It was the importance of building deep roots in the community. Relationships matter, service matters, and showing up matters. Those principles, along with years of professional growth, eventually led me to an opportunity to Stan Johnson Company, where I joined the leadership team during a critical period in the firm's history. Stan placed an enormous amount of trust in me to guide the company through a banking transition, major system conversions, and its first formal audit, and to serve as the point person on all financial matters related to the sale of the company. I was deeply involved in building financial models, preparing reforecast data, participating in management presentations to prospective buyers, and working closely with attorneys as a purchase agreement was drafted. Those 4 years at Stan Johnson Company didn't just build technical expertise, they gave me confidence. I could clearly see the direct result of my work, and that experience became a critical foundation to what came next. As the sale of Stan Johnson Company approached, I found myself standing at yet another crossroads. Do I take the safe path, or do I bet on myself? One night, while talking it through with my wife, something clicked. I realized I was roughly the same age my father had been when he bought his first one-way ticket, leaving everything behind to move his family to a different country in the middle of uncertainty and conflict. When I framed it in that way, starting a business didn't feel nearly as daunting. And so on October 13, 2022, I launched Leap Advisory. It felt like another one-way ticket, full of uncertainty, no guarantees, but deeply rooted in purpose. Today, Leap Advisory has grown to 6 CPAs, multiple offices, and dozens of clients. But none of it happened overnight. There were no shortcuts and no safety nets. There was no one waiting to help me financially if it failed. Every step forward came with trade-offs and willingness to keep going when the outcome wasn't guaranteed, all while raising young children and being fully in the thick of that stage of life. As I reflect on my 40 years, I see a common thread running through my life and my family's story: the courage to step into the unknown. Being Russian, living in Oklahoma, comes with its share of stereotypes and questions. I'm often asked for my thoughts on the current situation in Russia, and while I have many, today isn't the time to unpack them. What I will say is this: across the world, there are millions of individuals seeking the opportunity to come here, to work hard, to contribute, and to make their communities better. We cannot lose sight of the vast possibilities that America still offers. The American dream isn't dead, but it does require belief and effort. I became a U.S. citizen after nearly a decade in this country. I still feel a deep sense of emotion every time I recite the Pledge of Allegiance. What we have here is rare. It is special, and it is worth protecting, thoughtfully, responsibly, and with gratitude. When I think about the tragedy my grandparents lived through, the sacrifices my parents made, and the risks that they took to get us here, it gives me a deep sense of responsibility. I'm determined not to waste their efforts, but to use them as a megaphone for what is possible. As the Gospel of Luke reminds us, to whom much is given, much will be required. My hope is this: that we continue to be protectors of this republic, mindful stewards of our opportunity, and believers in upward mobility, not as a slogan, but as a real and attainable promise that still exists here in America. Thank you for listening, and thank you, America, for making room for one more dream. Thank you. Okay. And now we have about 10 minutes if there's any questions.
Would you have your wife and children come up?
Absolutely.
Tell us your wife and children's names.
Yeah. So my wife is Jody Volson, and my oldest is Elizabeth, and then my youngest is Catherine. Catherine was wanting to get on stage from, I think, the moment she showed up.
If I could ask a question of your girls. Girls, stay right here for just a minute. Holy cow. You're some of the best looking people we've had at a Rotary meeting. Kind of like that. So Catherine, how old are you?
8.
8. What do you love most about your father?
That he's really funny.
That he's really funny. Do you think he's good looking too? Kind of? And so, Elizabeth, what do you think of your dad? You like him pretty good?
Yeah.
You want to keep him?
Yeah.
You won't trade him in for another car?
No.
No, okay. All right, that's good. So where do you girls go to school?
Jinx.
You go to Jenks? Do you like school? Do you have a good teacher? Mm-hmm. You do? Okay. Well, you girls both look really happy. We're glad that you came here today, Judy. We're glad you came too. We're going to borrow your dad and husband for just a couple more minutes for some more questions. Thank you, girls, for coming up here.
Thank you.
Yes.
When was your last trip to Russia?
My last trip was 2007. So the summer that I went to London, and that's where I met Jody, after the studies, I flew to Russia and spent a week there, and that was my last time.
You still have family there?
So my aunt actually recently passed away this past summer, and then I have a great aunt that are still alive. But it's, I'm not seeing the opportunity to go there and visit anytime soon, unfortunately. Yep.
I have a question. As a financial advisor, there are a lot of shifting geopolitical things happening. Are there some that concern you about how it would affect sort of the economic prosperity here? Like, what do you have your eyes on internationally of all the things that are happening?
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a loaded question. So,
That's Jenny Graham. She's formerly with Tulsa World. She's still a reporter. She does a Substack.
okay.
Be careful what you say.
Yeah, is this on record? No, that's a great question. Right now, as I'm building out the firm, most of our clients are regional. Most of their day-to-day concerns are just what's happening, with taxes and really inside the borders. I know that there's other professionals that deal with, outside geopolitical items. That's not an area where I spend a lot of time, so. Yep.
Given when you left Russia and what you saw in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
can you describe some of the changes that you witnessed there?
So where we lived in St. Petersburg, not a whole lot has changed. My aunt lived right smack in the middle of St. Petersburg, and so the art and the history and the culture, it's exactly how I remember it, when we left. And then when we would go visit, we would visit the place where I grew up. And that's one thing, that's unfortunate. I would love to take my daughters to show them kind of where we lived and grew up, and it's just unfortunately won't be an opportunity anytime soon. But from what I remember, from that aspect of it, not a whole lot of change. Now, post 2007, a lot of things have really accelerated. They have high sky-rise office buildings, which is, that was unimaginable back then. So a lot of new construction. Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you for sharing your story. 12 years ago today, I stood on the stage sharing my story, and kudos to you for being able to get through that crying.
Yeah.
I met my wife in London too. Just everything that you said resonated so much. So thank you. One thing I'd ask you to reflect on is what resonates with me is you're talking about America from the perspective of not being American and the dream that people outside get to live here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you further expand on what you would love to be able to share with the average American about the opportunity that exists in the US?
I love that question. And I know probably I glossed over that part of the story, but it truly, when we came here, it just felt different. And as a young child at 10 years old, I just couldn't understand how I didn't see my dad working any harder or do anything different, and all of a sudden, the quality of life was just dramatically different here in the States. And for the first time, my parents are starting to really instill in us that you really can do anything. Usually we tell that to a child, especially when we were growing up in Russia and Israel, that sentence really didn't carry a whole lot of weight. But coming here, it really felt like, no, that's a real possibility. Part of kind of my reflection point is, I know that there's, no country or no place is perfect. I know there's issues going on, and I'm not defending everything, but we just cannot lose sight of the opportunities that we have here, and we can't take those for granted. Because living in Russia and living in Israel, and I've not traveled or fished on all continents, but I can tell you that growing up here and having the ability for my family to grow up here, I just know that their lives are dramatically better off.
Your comment about much is given, much is due. The question I have is the two important dates in all of our lives, the day we were born, which you have mentioned, and the day you find out why. Could you share with us why you believe you were born?
Oh, that's a good question. I think as I was probably in my mid-30s, especially when we started having children, it started to click. I think my wife came from a small school, and so when we brought Elizabeth to Jinx, she was terrified of, putting our fifth grader in a building that had hundreds of students. And then I quickly reminded her that I was in that same situation, but I had no friends and no language abilities. And so I think as I'm starting to see my life through my kids' eyes, that's when it's starting to really click. Yes, sir.
What do you think the average Russian family thinks about food?
So I'll just tell you, my dad from as young as I could remember was bound and determined to get out of the country. He was using different channels to learn English, learn French, because he knew that the government was going to eventually collapse. And so he figured if he could learn English and French, that gave him a very good chance to get out and live somewhere abroad. And I know that there's families like ours that are wanting to get out, but with just how locked down their media and ability to voice any type of opinions, it's hard to tell how other people feel. But it is, I know for us, the brain drain from Russia and all of these conflicts has been enormous. And because anybody that can or wants to get out has tried to get out. Yes, sir.
You travel the world and speak several languages. Where'd you get your Oklahoma accent?
So I got my first pair of boots when I met my wife, and I haven't gone to y'all yet. And yes, ma'am.
What are you doing to pass your culture along to your children?
So my parents live in Seattle. They've been battling some health issues, and so it's hard for them to travel. So we go to Seattle probably 3 times a year. And so for that week, my kids are immersed in a Russian culture. My parents still speak Russian at home. They still try to make food. And so that's when they get their fix. So.
One more question, if we have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Lane?
What do you remember of the things your father and mother taught you at home on a regular day?
So my mom was bound and determined for me to keep up with my English or Russian skills. And so when we lived in Israel and we would move to the U.S., she would spend 30, 45 minutes every day keeping up with my Russian skills. And so to this day, I'm able to read and talk to them in Russian. So.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Thank you.
Dimitri, have you met the gentleman sitting in the back of the room on the right, Kyden Creek Palm? No. He's a great guy for you to meet. He does international business transactions, and so he knows a little bit about some of the things you're talking about. And Matt Bristow, who spoke up earlier and talked about his own naturalization, you're from southern Russia, aren't you, Matt? Southern Russia? No? Oh, okay, the other way. But Matt is a past sergeant at arms for our club, and he served as chair of our foundation. And so both of those gentlemen are great gentlemen. If you have time to get to know them today, that would be a great thing. In your honor, Dimitri, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our music today, but John Hamill played the money music medley that describes his finances. He started with Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? He went to Pennies from Heaven, We're in the Money, If I Were a Rich Man, and I Can't Give You Anything But Love. Folks, it hits me hard. We started this meeting by standing here pledging allegiance to that flag. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to hear somebody like Dimitri say this is the land of opportunity and people were bound and determined to get here. We live in a time of a fractured society, and there are people who desecrate and denigrate our flag. It hurts my heart, but we still have the benefit of everything it represents. Let's not ever forget that. God bless the United States of America. Dimitri, in your honor today, we're going to give a book to our partners in education, Celia Clinton Elementary School. The book this week is called A Ticket Around the World. We still need a couple of fireside hosts. We talked about it last week. Hosting a fireside meeting is a great way to connect with fellow Rotarians in a relaxed, welcoming setting. As a host, you provide a location, light refreshments, board supplies, discussion topics. You'll be talking mostly about Karen McCannell's year coming up and things we can do better. Need 2 more Rotarians to do that. The date that's open now is February 17th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Lane, are you going to host one of those for us? Okay, well, that would be great. If you could get your table mate, Phil Ashley, to do the other one, we'd be wrapped up. Tina Miller will help you with that. If you can help us, please let her know. Also, this is urgent. Duff Weddle sitting out there today. Our South Central Rotary Youth Exchange is coming up. The annual winter conference is here in Tulsa. It's going to be held on Friday and Saturday, June 30th and 31st. It's coming soon. We still need a lot of host families. Duff, would you happen to know how many kids we still need to host?
I'm sorry, Alan has been the monitor of that activity.
Okay, no sweat. Last week, we still needed hosts for about 40 kids. Jenny, you're a member now. How many kids can we send to your house, honey?
I still have one, I'm trying to get some.
Oh, okay, all right. If you would please consider hosting, you have to host 2 or more. You can host a dozen of them. They don't require beds, they sleep on the floor, they bring their sleeping bags, and it's one night. You pick them up on Friday evening, you return them to a designated site at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. You do have to feed them, but they entertain themselves for the most part. You do have to complete a background check and a brief online training, but that's not hard. If you're interested in hosting, Alan Whalen can help you. And if you're not sure who Alan Whalen is, Duff is sitting there and he can get you to him right quick. We got some outstanding upcoming programs. Next week is Joey Wignaraja. Joey is an expert in business transactions and business applications. He's also an expert in AI. Chaz, Craig, and I promise that this AI presentation will be excellent. The week after that, we've got Jack Frank coming to speak. If you've ever heard Jack, he does such a great job presenting Tulsa history. He also is going to be talking about how they're using AI to colorize a lot of those old Tulsa movies that he has produced over the years. February 11 is Kujanga Jackson. We've got one meeting today. Afterwards, it's in room 231. It's the Board of Trustees meeting, and I see that we've got some of our Board of Trustees folks here. Want to thank our Rotary sponsors. There's a placard on your table that recognizes the people that contribute to our club for the benefit of their businesses. Please consider doing business with your fellow Rotarians first. Your advertising dollars help strengthen our club and make it possible for us to bring great speakers like Dimitri to talk to us today, and more importantly, Dimitri's children. Thank you for your presence today and for your ongoing commitment to service above self. Before you leave, take a minute to meet with Aaron Wendt and Jessica Schuffenhauer. That fish that was in the picture from Aaron's introduction, he caught that in Alaska. What was it, about a month or 6 weeks ago, I think you said, Aaron? So ask him about that fishing. They'll be at the guest table in the foyer. With that, we are adjourned.